You know, all good plans must come to an end. Ain't that the saying?
That's not the same.
Not the saying?
No.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about this plan. It's been a whole month, man. 77 Flavors. Let's get it. Yeah. That's a bop. We're going to see him this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joliet Prison baseball game.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Is it like ghosts playing? And I don't understand. I didn't actually look it up, but I'm excited.
Yeah, it might be.
I'm excited.
Anyway, what's cracking?
What's cracking?
Yeah, what's going on?
It's not much.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of 77 Flavors. If you are new here, welcome. Every week we dive into a Chicago history story that we think is fun. And we hope you do too. Yeah. This week we're wrapping up the Plan of Chicago. This is part 4. So if you have not listened,
Five. Yeah. 5 of them things. Yeah.
Part 5. So if you have not listened to part 1 through 4, I urge you to do so.
We read the whole book, y'all.
Yeah. We read you the whole plan. Mm-hmm. But if you're not new here, you already know that. Welcome back. We're so happy you're here.
Yeah.
And we're ready to dive in. But before that, let's talk about our week.
Yeah. Go ahead, like and subscribe and all that shit, though. You know what I mean? All that shit, all that stuff. Go ahead and go ahead, like, subscribe, follow. Yeah.
You're already in the app.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Just give a little
notification. Turn it on. Download. That's what we talking about. Hit that download.
Is that how old people say it?
Yeah, hit that. That's what it is.
He's old, y'all. Don't mind him.
Hey, shoot, downloads count.
Downloads do count. It's free $99.
Free $99. As long as you pay your cell phone. That's what we say.
Yeah, as long as you pay your cell phone.
Yeah.
You can do that for us. But what was I talking about? What we did this week. We actually we started off the week with a live podcast recording.
Started out real strong.
Yeah. A live podcast recording at Kendall College for their fundraiser, which we told you about last week. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And the episode aired last week on Thursday. It was like an extra bonus episode. So if you are interested in what that sounds like, you can go and listen to it. We interviewed some of the chefs. It was really fun, but
play games.
It was downhill from there.
far as the week, y'all, not the podcast.
Yeah. I had to go to the dentist 2 back-to-back days, which was diabolical.
He was in the
chair. I was in the chair. And can I tell you a little story about what happened to me at the dentist?
Uh-oh,
because I actually didn't hear this. I didn't tell you. I wanted to save it for this moment. Oh. So, if I don't like to really talk about dying personally.
Yeah.
I have a lot of health anxieties. Mm-hmm. And I walk in and my dentist goes, we were planning to do some dental work on both sides of my mouth. And I was like, listen, I don't feel comfortable being numb on both sides. Can we do one today, one tomorrow? That's why I ended up going 2 back-to-back days. And he was like, of course, that sounds fine. And I think that's good because I'm having really high blood pressure and I'm going to go to the urgent care after this. And I was like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, let's just hope I'm not having a heart attack. And I was like,
mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then proceeded for the next hour and a half or 2 hours that I was there to talk about how he felt like he was having a heart attack.
That's crazy. Was he good though? I mean,
so the next day I went back and obviously he was like, as I was leaving, he was like, well, if we cancel your appointment, I died. And I was like,
oh my goodness.
Don't
What's going on,
say
bro?
that.
Yeah.
What is happening? Here's the thing. I love my dentist so much. And I know he was being funny.
Yeah.
But it was not funny.
Relax, bro. You got to relax with that.
It got worse.
And you about to be all up with the tools?
In my, with drilling tools, and shit?
In your shit? No,
yeah.
Hell no.
Yeah. And I already don't like being numbed. I just don't like the feeling of being numb. I don't like anesthesia. And so I'm already anxious about, I'm not anxious about the dental work. I'm anxious about that specifically because I just don't like that feeling. If you can't tell, I am a control freak. So I like to be in control of everything that I'm feeling at all times. So when I can't, it just feels off. Anyway.
Press the button, y'all.
Anyway. So we got through that appointment. I go home. I wake up the next morning. My appointment is still happening. So I go to the dentist and I walk in and he was like, were we talking to you about ghosts yesterday? And I was like, no, what do you mean? And he goes, well, this building is haunted. It was actually the first hospital in Chicago is the building that the dentist is in. And I was like, I was like, amazing. I did read that on the plaque outside 2 years ago when I first started going there, or a year ago or whatever.
It was the first hospital.
It was the first hospital in Chicago, Sister Mercy Hospital.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's where you go.
he was
Y'all,
like,
I should know more.
He was like, it is very haunted. He was like, the first time that he got the lease for the place, he was in the front office, and there was no one there. He had just gotten the lease, the keys, and he was sitting in there, and he just heard someone say hello. And so he walks, and he was like, who's in here? And he walks around, there's no one there. So he talks to the people that they're like, oh yeah, it's super haunted. Actually, people hear voices in the elevator. Like if you're in the elevator and they're on the 13th floor.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So he was like, oh, we hear people go, like he was like, I was in the elevator once and I just heard someone like next to me and there was no one in the elevator. And the floor that they're on used to be a psych ward. And so there was a mom that was having postpartum depression, but obviously they thought women were going crazy because they're like, depression isn't real. And she like held her baby, trigger warning, and jumped off of the window.
No. In real life?
Yes.
What?
Obviously like 100 and something years ago. Right. So not recent, not anytime recently. The building is no longer a hospital.
What?
So he's telling me this while we are also doing dental. Like, I'm like, what are you doing to me right now? Like, why are we having these conversations?
Bro, what's going on?
And he was like, oh yeah, we constantly see people like shadows walking around the office.
Nah, man. Nah.
And I was like, get me out of here.
Yeah,
this was the last bit of dental work that I had to get done.
Yeah.
Other than like cleanings, I don't have to go back
Leave
for anything.
a Google review.
Here's the thing, I love this dentist. He's so good, and I love everyone that works there. It's like the first dentist office that I'm like not afraid of going until this story. I was like, well, I don't want to be here anymore.
Damn. Maybe they don't want you.
Maybe. They love me. Every time I walk in, they say hi to me by name. Yeah. And I was like, is it a good or bad thing that you guys know me by name?
Because of what we do, you rescheduled a few times.
Yes.
So maybe they just know you because they probably like, you know what? Let's move on from this. Yeah. Let's move on from this relationship.
No, but I reschedule within my allotted time. I don't reschedule last minute. But we had to miss some events, which is really unfortunate. We missed Fault at Chicago Shakespeare, which is, I was really I was really looking forward to it. He was there. It was opening night, and I could not. Yeah. I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
And then we also missed Lyric Opera's Rising Stars concert. Again, it's their Ryan Opera Center, like their up and coming singers that are going through that program. They host a concert for them. And I was really also looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I could not make it. So it's just been
rough this week.
It's been a rough week.
Started out good. Great.
Started out real high.
Yeah. And then
I just was, I think like mouth pain is like really hard to like sit through. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I feel like mouth pain, back pain, headache are like the three worst ones for me. And unfortunately I have chronic back pain. I've had the series of like oral pain, dental pain.
Yeah, there you go.
And yeah, but
jaws hurting, huh?
Damn.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
That was our week.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, that was our week.
That's that.
But that's all.
You know, we move on to another week. We haven't done Hot Take Tuesday. And I kind of want to.
I have a hot take.
Do you? I got one too. And this is more so, you have to be a little bit older and more of the urban setting to kind of get this one maybe. Mm-hmm. But I was listening in the car today to the Dedication 5. Dedication, if y'all don't know, Dedication 5 is the mixtape that Lil Wayne was putting out. He was putting out all these dedications. He was when music was, he was going through it with putting out the Carter 5, and people wanted that, and we weren't getting it. And so what he would do is he would put out mixtapes. He was putting out mixtapes before all that, but you know, we were like, bro, when are we getting the Carter 5? And so he would just put out these mixtapes, and basically they were just him freestyling over beats that came out that year.
Okay,
fantastic, y'all. The beat, they're so good. My hot take is, the mixtape culture is really irrelevant now.
You think?
I think so. Now before,
people don't make mixtapes anymore.
They do, but it's not as
but they're not selling it to you on the corner anymore.
Right. Well, but that's fine. I more so wanted to be downloaded somewhere. Like we was putting
you
our computer
SoundCloud,
through the.
Don't you?
No. Kazaa was good. Napster was good. LimeWire. That's what I was doing.
R.I.P. LimeWire.
Yeah, we was getting all kind of free stuff on there. But here's the thing. when I say mixtapes ain't popping like they used to, I know Drake put out some mixtapes. I know J. Cole in the last.
Nobody's trying to hear
in
a
a few
Drake mixtape.
His mixtapes are pretty decent.
Here's the thing.
Look, what's his name? J. Cole was putting out some good mixes. They the last two that was, but like Kanye, all them, he crazy now, but like all of them was putting out mixtapes, and it was like a literal culture of. Have you heard that mixtape? Back in the day, Chicago had the mixtapes that all of our all that the Percolator was on there. You know what I mean? Tootsie they was on literal tapes. That's why they call mixtapes. And they would come in different colors, and you could pick these tapes up, like literally at stores. Really? You can go to stores and either somebody was sitting there or they had somebody dropped off some mixtapes. You'd be like, let me get the purple mixtape. Let me get this mixtape. Let me get that. That mixtape culture is gone.
Yeah,
we need it back, man. That's why music is not what it used to be.
Right.
That's my hot take, man.
I don't know how you would bring that back.
It's up to the artist. It's kind of like
but like it doesn't exist anymore.
But that's because it's up to the artist. They stopped it because it's like it's still there. People still making music. It's a lot of stuff that we don't get on these.
It's just so expensive to put out music.
Yeah, but that was the whole point of a mixtape. A mixtape was free. These artists just put out a mixtape with no jurisdiction. They just put out music.
Yeah,
that's gone.
I think it's like the main problem. And don't get me on my soapbox, but I think the main problem is capitalism.
But it had nothing to do with capitalism. I know people want to make money.
I'm saying people want to make money.
Yeah,
like,
but
they don't want to put out music and just like.
Yeah, but
like,
see, that's what I'm saying.
If you're a successful artist, why would you put out a mixtape?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They was doing it back in the day and they were still being successful.
Like who?
Everybody. Like it was big names. Like it was big.
They're big now.
No, Lil Wayne was putting out mixtapes way back in the day. Kanye would drop a whole thing of mixtape. And we talking about old artists, I'm sure, most people here is not going to know. But like, artists back in the day were putting out mixtapes, lots of music. I mean, most of my music that I got up there that is on my hard,
the cost per hour for these studio hours is probably astronomical.
We missing a thing with the mixtape though. These people making mixtapes were literally just walking in a studio and just rapping, and that's what we got. You know what I'm saying? All in the mic.
Did it pick it up?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, I don't know. That's my thing. It's kind of like the NBA right now. People say that the All-Star game is watered down, right? And the NBA as a whole is watered down until the playoffs. Because the playoffs so far, we've been getting some good performances. But the leading up to it, the regular season has been watered down. It's up to the players and stuff to make that fun. You know what I'm saying?
It's like a handful of things that are still fun in life.
Most shit ain't fun. Be honest with you.
Everything costs $100 and nothing is fun.
And we
no. I don't want to say that.
There's some fun stuff.
There's some fun
It still
stuff.
costs $100. Still costs money.
No, but here's the thing. I love a list of like free things you could do. We're lucky because we live in a city where you can do a lot of
things,
free things. But
we can do a lot of free
just
things.
going outside is $100.
Yeah, I mean,
there's someone at the door as soon as you leave your house. That's like, give me $100.
Yeah, because like especially if you use your car, that's $200.
Yeah,
because
at least
because we spend a lot of money. Not just we. I'm talking about as people,
as
right?
humans.
Yeah, just a lot of money on things. It's out of control. Yeah. That's why.
Well, I feel good now. Let's get into this.
You said I feel fantastic.
Let's talk about some rich people.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Y'all,
how do you feel about wrapping up Planet Chicago? I feel like this was a long time coming. I think we're to do this as a topic, and I'm excited we dedicated so much time to it.
Yeah, and go back like Sarah said and listen to the other 4 if you didn't, if you missed. I think it's worth it. But I like the plan of Chicago, and it was honestly to go through the plan of Chicago. Just us personally, feels good to have. Our knowledge of Chicago is better. Also, it helps out with the timeline and stuff, that we talked about the plan of Chicago roughly, loosely, throughout the last 4 or 5 years, and a lot of people, I think on a crust level know about the plan of Chicago and that we didn't get a lot from it.
Mm-hmm. Most people, when you say what is the plan of Chicago, they think of this Burnham 1909 plan. Yes. It's like the PR company that was responsible for making this happen was back, they had the PR for it.
They put the money out.
So Chicago has had multiple plans before and since.
Yeah. Mainly after.
But there were a few before.
Yeah.
I mean, even like they weren't like as rigid of plans,
Right.
but you know,
You had to have a plan.
You had to have some.
Yeah, you got to have some. You know what I mean? And that's
somebody
literally
had to be like, we put a street here.
that's basically what they did.
Yeah.
But what we're gonna talk about today though is
Yeah.
you know
What was completed?
what
What
came of the
wasn't.
plan, and why we're
Yeah.
here.
And I will touch a little bit on the current plan that we are living in right now, just
Yeah.
to give you kind of an idea
Where we at.
where we at.
So I do want to say also, just kind of go over. I mean, this is a question for y'all to ask yourself if you've been following along. Do you like the plan? The answer is a mixed bag.
Yeah.
There were a lot of great ideas. You know what I mean? Obviously, you make these things really good. It sounds good on paper, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was going to be grand. It was look good. But the criticism that we kind of hinted at early on, I think it was like episode 1 or 2 maybe, and then Sarah came back episode 4 and kind of alluded to it. You know, this plan didn't include the people really. When you think about it, like, and by people, I'm talking about the common folk. It had the idea of what people would like. You know what I mean? Like we like all that stuff, but it didn't have the realness of what was going to really happen. Because, and that's been a criticism of this book. As we were looking up the criticism, we saw this a lot.
Yeah. And it's really mainly because of like who was the booster club here and what did they want to see?
Yeah.
They cared about infrastructure. They cared about, trade, railroads. That's what they wanted. They wanted the business portion. And Burnham did care about people. He wanted to do more when it came to children. He wanted to do more when it came to accessibility for things in public, like public restrooms and stuff like that. But he just was not given the budget for that. They asked for very specific things. And so the 6 items that he picked that we're kind of, we broke down over the last few weeks is what was
done,
paid for.
And here's the thing about it. He did care about people, but I think it was more of a glossy-eyed image of what things are, because like you want all this, but like we know the reality of what social cues were.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like he didn't take actual human social cues into consideration. You know,
it's also
you can't factor in those things. You have to.
Yeah, and it's also indicative of the fact that like when you live in a societal bubble, you don't see other people.
Yeah, you don't see that.
And until you make the effort to learn how other people live, what they want, what they don't want, and what our community is actually looking for, then you can make a more concise plan. And I think that was the interesting kind of comparison between the plan of the more recent one that we're living in now versus Burnham's plan. Is just by looking at like how they broke it down and like the words that they used and who was included in like coming up with the plan. It was really different from Burnham's plan.
Yeah.
And that's just, again, who supported it. The different, now the laws now versus the laws in 1909 differ. People like, Marshall Field and like those people could pay for civic centers and stuff like that. Now it's more of like you're looking at government bonds and like taxpayer money. So it's like that's how you decide where the money comes from is how you decide who this benefits. Yeah. And at the time it came from a small group of people.
It did. And so that kind of leads off where Sarah and I are going to talk about today, what you're going to hear. So we told you we're going to give you the timeline. We're going to give you, what it did come of the plan and kind of why it didn't happen. Now, I'm going to start with the timeline right now, right? Daniel Burnham died 1912, right? And at the same time, that same year, they did approve certain things to get done.
Yep.
Roughly $240 million worth of stuff that did get approved after he passed.
Yep.
And that was kind of like an ode to him. And hey, this plan is good. we can do this. Now, we said this plan fell apart quickly, right?
Yeah.
It fell apart quickly. And here's why it fell apart. The Great Migration. And not in the sense of, here's where the angle I'm coming from with it, y'all. And I know maybe somebody out there like, you can't put that on the Great Migration.
Yeah.
I'm not putting on Great Migration. I'm putting it on the social things that people did not account for. What came with the Great Migration, and you know, Great Migration really started 1916 for Chicago. The Navy Pier was done that same year, right? Navy Pier was done in 1916. Yeah. So when you think about the prospect of people coming, but the Great Migration was already happening. I want to say 1910, 1912-ish. People are moving from the South, right? Already. What happened with Chicago is that we still had a lot of, you know, racial injustice and redlining, and white flight started to happen, and all these things started to happen right around that time. And so we had an influx of people. Chicago's population black population went from 3% to 33%. Chicago is still growing at a crazy rate now. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think at this point, Chicago is at 2 million people, 1909, right? We jump forward to 1912 now after this whole thing, right? You know, we're moving upwards. We're going to get to right around, was it the 30s and 40s? Chicago is at in the 40, 45. We at 3.8 million people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that a million people in 3 decades, the growth there is just out of control. You didn't account for none of that. Unfortunately, you had a good plan, but you didn't account for none of that. Yeah. You didn't account for the people, the black people, let's call it what it is. You didn't account for them coming up here and then racial things starting to happen. There's more stuff that I want to put in, then I'm going to just, you know, let it have it. I'm sure you're going to talk about this. We got the Michigan Avenue Bridge.
Right.
You know, we got the Michigan Avenue Bridge, and that came with a caveat. The caveat there was it did exactly what Daniel Burnham thought it would do. He said, hey, look, you know what? Michigan Avenue is going to be like super busy. This street is going to, we got the Mag Mile. We got it. Michigan Avenue. They say Michigan Avenue, when that bridge was created, it did 7 times the amount of traffic that Rush Street was doing. That's crazy. So in that time, you know, reason why people like McCormickville a lot, because it was quiet. You couldn't get there.
Yeah.
You know, people could live there. You could have your little high society.
And no one was really crossing that river.
Nobody was crossing the river. Now you put this nice fancy bridge up there.
And it's easy to cross.
And it's easy to cross the bridge. Now people are like, oh, this is what's literally on the other side of the river. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is cool. At the same time, you got black people up here. So now you got 2 things happening. More people, not just blacks, more people. You got accessibility now to places that people really weren't getting to. Mm-hmm. Now things change. Now it's like, oh shit, it's too busy. You know what I'm saying? We're getting overwhelmed by, like, it's growing faster than we thought. Wacker is completed. That's part of the plan. We wanted that, the upper decker. Wacker is completed 6 years later, right? Okay, cool. So now we alleviate some of that traffic, but you know, it's happening. 1937, Chicago Housing Authority is formed. You form that because, okay, we need to put people somewhere. You know, like we creeping up. Right around this time, we had 3 million roughly. Yeah, we had 3 million people. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, now it's getting crazy. 1939. All right, we gotta figure this out. They absorbed the Chicago Plan Commission into the city government. Never a good idea. Yeah. You know, when you have a whole committee that's dedicated to making a plan and you put that in the hands of government, I say that is a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but we know what happened when you let the government. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you almost.
But I can't imagine them being successful without being part of the city government.
Well, let's think about it.
How could they get that work? Because at this point, like laws are changing. You can't get work done just as a committee. Like
100%. But like when you think about who was behind this, kind of what you alluded to, you know, who was behind it before all this, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you had the rich people was in control of it. Yeah, but now it's government stuff. Right. You can't do no with government. You can influence, but you can't really. You it's the government. You know what I mean? So that changes. And I'm almost jumping out here, but these are key things that y'all need to know. I mean, Sarah and I, we know this stuff. We talked about this. 1945, CTA. Why is CTA forming? Well, they were the RTA before. Yeah. But now it's too busy. Excuse me. It's too busy. It's still there. It's you need to bus people around. Okay, cool. We can't do all the other stuff that Daniel Byrne was talking about because
Yeah.
there's people here. We gotta put the people somewhere. We gotta drive them somewhere. Robert Taylor, the person Robert Taylor leaves the CHA, Chicago Housing Authority, because they didn't want to put houses where he wanted the houses, where he thought that houses would be. So he was like, I'm leaving this. Okay, that's in 1950. That's in 1950.
Yeah.
So now we're in the 50s. And we know what's going on in the 50s. Racial tensions is at an all-time high. 1919, I skipped over that one. I didn't even say that, but we had the race riots.
Right.
You know, so that was part of it. 1959, a new development plan for the central area of Chicago is formed. Okay. 62, Robert Taylor homes are built.
Yeah.
63, O'Hare is done. Chicago is massive, is growing way too fast. 66, another plan of Chicago. And in that plan, y'all talked about this in the 4 weeks, they were talking about getting rid of the loop. That was the loop. Richard Daley, the first Daley, is elected in office. In 73, another plan of Chicago is proposed because
It keeps shifting.
it keeps shifting. So,
Yeah.
it fell apart real quick.
Yeah. And to kind of like get more granular about this, specifically the 6 pieces that that Burnham and Buddy were working on together.
Burnham and Buddy Bennett.
Burnham Bennett.
Yeah.
Burnham and Edward Bennett.
Yeah.
So I kind of like this quote as a final quote that we're going to grab from this book. It said, "The constant struggle of civilization is to know and attain the highest good." And I think it's part of a longer sentence, but I feel like this really kind of like summarizes what he was trying to do here. He wanted to elevate this city. So if you forgot what the point of the plan was, that's really where it is. The 6 main principles, like we talked about, were improving the lakefront, which I think this is
got that.
considered the main legacy of the plan. This is like the number one thing that we really got out of this plan was free and open to the public, this lakefront that we have that we're super proud of and we all love. The second thing was creating a system of highways, the circuits that move around the city center of the loop, right? We kind of got that. There were highways built not according to the plan. They did not move in circuits the way that he envisioned. But we do have highways that move around the loop, right? Then we have improving the railway terminals and developing the system for the freight and the passengers and separating those two. Obviously, we had Union Station. They envisioned Union on Roosevelt. We did not get it there. It was built on Jackson. And then the other 5 railway stations didn't really do anything. They didn't move. They didn't integrate into Union Station until Amtrak came along, and they kind of became obsolete because you just didn't need them anymore. Yep. So
That's why we lost the Illinois Central.
Which is one of the reasons why the rich moved out of Perry Avenue, because it was like in the middle of their neighborhood, and they're like, this is ghetto. Like, we don't want freight trains going through a rich ass neighborhood.
And then look, this is we could say this, who was on those trains,
right?
Especially at the time.
Yeah, coming into Grant Park. If you don't remember, we did talk about this a while ago, but that southwest corner of Grant Park was considered Black Ellis Island. It's where people came into that train station that was there, and it was Black people traveling up from the south, and so they would get off, and it was like you're immediately on Roosevelt and Michigan. So
AKA 12th Street, y'all.
Yeah, AKA 12th Street at the time. So all the rich white people were like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah. And that was,
and Pullman was the one that led the charge.
Palmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was the first one that was like, let me go build this mansion in Gold Coast. So he left and all his friends followed.
You know what's funny? And again, as historians, we're going to stick to the facts, right? Because the facts are, pollution. That's what we were told. Pollution and, the smell of the stockyards and all this stuff. But as people that break down history, I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't all that.
And it was like the business district was moving further south, and it was too close to where they were living, and they did not want to live in it.
Yeah,
they wanted to be isolated from the loop. They wanted to live in, so Gold Coast was the next best area for them. Speaking of which, being historians and talking about
what they aren't telling you, but you can read between the lines. Something that was on the timeline that I read to you that wasn't on the website that I kind of cross-referenced with just to make sure I got my things right. You know, they didn't have the eminent domain right before O'Hare because we know that the highway was created and took down all those homes, especially in the Black and brown communities, for the expressway. And we needed it. They used eminent domain, and then the airport was created.
Yeah.
Y'all, this is why we can read you what the history says.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like, if they're going to omit something like that on a public forum, that's not right. You know, that's not right at all. And so, I just wanted to interject that there.
Yeah. The next point was the acquisition of the, kind of like the park systems and the parkway circuits and all of that. They wanted to build the boulevards. They wanted the Cook County Forest Preserve to be it was kind of already created, but they wanted to preserve the kind of forestry that we had in the city and all that stuff. So obviously Cook County was already happening, and we didn't get any new boulevards. Really, they didn't really complete the Emerald Necklace. Like none of that really happened. But we still have a very solid park system in place, and so I would count that as like
100.
halfway of a win.
Yeah,
you can't grant it all to the plan because obviously things were already in place before.
Yep.
And people already had like ideas for what they wanted to do and plans for what they wanted to happen. But that's one that, you know, the plan really focused a lot on. It was like the first thing we talked about was the park system. So it was a huge part. Next was the how the streets and the avenues were arranged and expanded and all of that stuff. Again, kind of. We got a grid. We got North Michigan Avenue. We got a grid. We got Wacker. We got LaSalle. These were widened or created. One of the other, like some of the streets were widened. We had got Ogden was extended from Chicago Avenue northeast to Lincoln Park, which hadn't been extended before. We got those diagonal streets like Milwaukee and stuff were made a little bit wider. Yeah. So Roosevelt was widened, even though that took a few years to do. So some, obviously not to the extent of the plan, but there was some success there. Michigan Avenue could have been way greater, but
what stopped there is just out of. I mean, you stopped 50% from the goal. The Chicago grid, the mapping of Chicago, genius. Yeah, like the mapping of Chicago, and it wasn't all him. You know what I mean? Like he was the one that
even the state in Madison we talked about was suggested before the plan even happened.
Yeah, before him. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was Chicago. We went crazy with that one. Yeah. Like the grid was T.
The sixth point was the development of kind of like a center for intellectual and civic life, right? Like he wanted that area that was
Grant Park.
Grant Park. And obviously that did not happen. We already had a city hall that had just been built a couple of years ago, so there was no way they were going to move that. And what's interesting about the field not being built in Grant Park, and the Art Institute was already there, but they wanted to build more stuff around Grant Park, was the fact that around that time, Montgomery Ward had already won one or two lawsuits with the Supreme Court of Illinois to keep Grant Park open and free to the public. And so he was the one that specifically blocked the Field Museum from being built in Grant Park. And so Edward Buddy, why can't I remember his last name?
Who are you talking about?
Bennett. Yeah. He ended up going with the Buckingham Fountain idea, right? So it was really fascinating to see that like Montgomery Ward really fought for that for them to not be able to build any more buildings on Grant Park.
Bennett did that?
I mean, it was part of like
his idea to put something there, like
to put something at the center of Grant Park.
Because Buckingham Fountain didn't come to 46 something.
It was like putting something for people to commune around.
Still smart. Good plan.
Yeah. Like so obviously we got Field Museum and we got the planetarium and the aquarium and all museum campus is and Soldier Field eventually. So, not eventually, Soldier Field.
Yeah, Soldier Field.
Before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really interesting reading Montgomery Ward's like his specific thought on that, because like
nuts.
you'd think these are his friends, right? So like Marshall Field. I mean, are they his friends?
Well, what's crazy? He did it after they died.
Right, but they are technically his friends.
Yeah, I mean, but were they friends? You got to think though too.
They're like competitors.
I'm sure he was kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of with you, but like, people didn't like Daniel Burnham. Not everything was good,
right.
you know.
So the 4 cases of this were the City of Chicago versus Ward in 1897, Bliss v. Ward in 1902, Ward v. Field Museum of Natural History in 1909. The South Park Commissioners v. Ward in 1910. So he won 4 of all 4.
Yeah, it was crazy about he won. Not only did he win all 4, but especially when the South Park Commission, they came to a compromise with him. You know?
And the library that was supposed to be built there, because John what was the name of the library that was going to be built?
Creer.
John Creer had left money to build that library there in Grant Park. And Ward was like, no, we're not doing that.
And he wanted to stop the artists too, but they had already came to a deal.
Yeah.
He was like, you son of a... What's crazy though is like, we look at Art Institute right now.
It's nice to have an unobstructed view of the lake is phenomenal. True. Like, I can't imagine there being giant buildings right there.
Yeah, like I couldn't... So, here's part of the plan.
I'm with him.
I'm with him too. But here's part of the thing that is making me wonder, like, where, Daniel Burnham came up with these ideas, because, Daniel Burnham was still building stuff before he sat down and was like, all right, this is going to be the plan.
Right.
Which is crazy. So he built, him and Root built the Rookery building in 1888 on the site of the old City Hall. So, and they were playing in the World's Fair at that point. So he's creating, which that's next.
I mean, he wasn't an urban planner at that point yet. No, he was just an architect.
Well, right, he wasn't.
Yeah, until after the World's Fair is when they were like, all right, it's like redo this, but big.
What I'm saying is, I think he shot himself in the foot. I feel like he shot himself in the foot. He was kind of like, hey, I want to do these things, but I already got these things in the work right now. You know what I mean? Like, so. It's crazy that obviously hindsight always 2020. You feel like you could redo some things. I'm sure he felt like that, but hearing what we have and what went on and everything like that, the plan fell apart essentially pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it was a lot. It was a lot.
It was a lot. It was very ambitious. It was very ambitious plan, and not mad at it. But what is still incredible today's time, right? Yeah. In today's time, we have to be conscious of how we think of people, right? And in this time, are you good?
Yeah.
All right. In this time, he wasn't. They didn't consider people as real people. You know what I mean? Like the glossy, happy, feel good story. We're gonna make this beautiful. Nowadays, we could take a look at these plans and be like, all right, let's look at how it's going to benefit people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about with the only reason I really want to bring up the current plan.
Yeah, the current plan. Well, let's get into it.
All right, so we are currently in the Central Area Plan of 2045, which is a 20-year roadmap that kind of focuses on the. Oops, can you hear me? All right, that focuses on the continued growth of downtown, and it was taken on or not taken on. It was it's an update of the city's 2003 Central Area Plan, and it was coordinated by the Department of Planning and Development in 2045, and it was a few years ago. We also had the We Will Chicago Plan, which was a framework plan for the city's future that was adopted by the Chicago Plan Commission in February 16 of 2023. So both were adopted by the Chicago Plan Commission. Both are similar but also different, or because one focuses on downtown central area, and one is Chicago as a whole. And I'm actually really interested in how they work together, if they even do. But this one, the 2045 plan, is specifically for the Loop. And the one that really kind of was fascinating to me when I was reading it about the verbiage that they were using in comparison with the plan of Chicago is the "We Will Chicago," because the main, like when you open the page 5, when they're talking about the goals and the objectives to guide the city priorities for the next 10 years. So it's a 10-year plan. Its main pillars are arts and culture, civic and community engagement, economic development, environment, climate and energy, housing and neighborhoods, lifelong learning, public health and safety, transportation and infrastructure. The key terms are equity, both on outcome and a process that results in fair and just access to opportunity and resources that provide everyone the ability to thrive, resiliency, the ability of individuals and groups to survive, adapt to personal stress and collective change. So it is very focused on the people and the people that it serves. It spans the entirety of the city. It goes through all 77 community areas. And it really focuses, its main, the first pillar is art, and it has, there's an entire 84-page breakdown of all of the goals. And within each pillar, there's, 4 or 5 goals. And under these goals, there's multiple objectives and multiple policy recommendations. So it's very extensive, not as poetic as the plan of Chicago, like the 1909 plan. It's very bullet points.
I feel like we don't need poetic. We need this.
There is some great historic maps and stuff like that, like we see with the 1909 plan. It's really interesting if, obviously we are a history podcast, so, I want to focus on that. But this is kind of interesting to compare and contrast because it does visit history the way he did, where it talks about here's what we did in the 50s, here's what we did in the 60s, this is what worked here, this was the recession. Why do we have issues with housing? They talk about school closures, all of the issues that really affect everyday life of every individual. And it's not very flowery and kind of romantic in the way of if we just make all the streets wider, everything will be better.
What was really cool is that you this is what we were talking about. We were, talking to, people about the plan, and, you have to look at the past in order to move forward. I feel like the 1909 plan didn't have a past it was looking for. And by past, I mean an example. The city
was so young.
Yeah, the example of who we were already. They looked at the past, but it was ancient history and how they got it to work and how we could theorize. We didn't have anything to really. They didn't take any basis. Plans nowadays, we know. Hey, look. Equity is a thing, and not just, and we mean equity into getting these people from the South and West Sides into the downtown and having more art and culture for them and fun, which also is really cool because they adapt to what today's times are. Art and culture is a big, massive thing.
Yeah, and there's a piece right here in front of me that talks about data and inclusion. And it says, despite living in Chicago for decades or even before it was incorporated, multiple ethnic groups have been traditionally excluded from the city's historical narrative, undercounted during data collection efforts, and underrepresented as elected officials. So it really acknowledges that. And when it talks about social inequities, institutional inequities, living conditions, risk behavior, disease, mortality, all of that, it really takes into consideration all of the different groups that live in the city, how diverse the city is in terms of whether it's ethnic diversity, diversity of age groups, whatever it is. And so it was so fascinating to compare the two different plans, and even looking at the central area plan, because I would consider Burnham's plan more of a central area plan, because he was
100%.
Really just about the Loop. He 100%. Wasn't, I mean, Chicago wasn't as big as it is now, but it was a lot of
it was a central area plan.
And so, this plan talks about how we were going to zone downtown and what is that going to look like? What is the goal of the central area plan for 2045 is to create an quote, an implementable vision that is informed by past, rooted in equity, and shaped by Chicagoans on behalf of the entire city. Again, very involving, like the verbiage is just very involving of people. And
I think it has to be, obviously it has to be, right?
Yeah.
But that to me signals a city that has listened to the past.
Yeah.
You know, that is listening to the past. And it's easy to say today's day and age, you have to jump on that as a trend too. You know what I mean? Like, duh, you can't keep on mistreating people.
Right.
But, you know, Chicago in particular, you know, we were the center of, you know, at one point, high racist tensions, racial tensions. And so it's cool to hear a city, like, even if it's a plan and we don't get much of it, you know what I mean? But like, if you get a plan,
there's stuff it's in the works. It's in the works.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
I mean, let's think about it. Like, let's cut it real. This weekend, as of this recording of the podcast, this past week, we just broke ground finally on the Red Line extension. That's decades in the making.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so things are in the works, but it's just really good to see that there are. Downtown being accessible is one of the key things. People always ask me, what was the moment you knew you made it, right? And it was when I used the example of when I had people come in and say, I'm here because of you at the Hancock. Man, look, that's when me and you realized, bro, there's people that have not been downtown.
Yeah.
Like down to the city. And that's because you ain't got a reason to.
Right.
We do this in our neighborhood. I ain't got to go down there. But like
Yeah.
now, a plan that includes everybody, plus you add jobs, adding residential, adding, you know, more, I say jobs, but like more things down there to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the usage of our, when they talk about the green and the energy.
That's exactly, it talks about high, you know,
Usage of
adding it's a high density mixed use neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you know, having exceptional transit connections, cultural assets, and abundant employment opportunities, distinctive open spaces and natural areas. You know, they want to revitalize the core, which is to grow and diversify the jobs, create more housing options, create easy connections. It's a bunch of, again, this is a 140-page report as well. So we would take another 4 weeks to break it down the way we did the plan of Chicago. So, you know, I am really being very like crest level here.
Yeah. But just know it's a plan.
Some of the things that are surprising that I learned from it is the economic, you know, downtown numbers. So 45% of the city-wide tax base is in the central area. 52% of the city's jobs. It's 3% of Chicago's land area. And there's
3% of Chicago's land area does 52% of the job.
Yeah. There's 103,000 residents in the last 20 years, or it grew 103,000 residents, and there's currently 184,000 residents, which is crazy because when you think about, you know, obviously when we haven't really done a deep dive, but when you talk about the daily years of like the beautification movement and like all of that stuff, there was like in the, you know, the 70s, whatever, there was people moved out of the loop in numbers.
Yeah.
And his plan was to kind of like make it, you know, more beautiful, bring people back. But
like little things, like make it literally livable and look beautiful.
Yeah. And then when, you know, the plans did not work and people moved in droves, buildings sat empty for a very long time. And when they go unused, they're just...
I think Chicago is forever going to have it's a good problem, right? It's a good problem to have, but it's forever going to be in that situation of you just don't know. Our ceiling is so high.
Yeah.
There is no ceiling for Chicago. It's just too good of a space. And this is me glazing for right now. And but just being real, because we've been through these different phases. Chicago had we got up to almost, you know, 4, 5, 6 million people at one point. You know what I mean? Like, so Chicago has been huge for years, right? And then we went on this stark decline because of racial tensions and people moving out because costs got too high. But the last 3 years, I believe it's the last 3 years, Chicago is the only big city. And don't quote me because I remember seeing this, but Chicago is the only major city to see an increase in population the last 3 years, 3 to 4 years. When you think about that and all the stuff people, you crack jokes all you want to about Chicago, this and that, right? But as much as you say people moving out of the city, now we back on that trend of people moving back in. So
I mean, I'm looking at it's an article from Time Out. from May of last year, and Chicago had one of the biggest population gains of any U.S. city last year, 2024.
Yeah.
So,
think about that. Like we're growing again.
Yeah.
And so as much as we can make these plans, all you can do is hope that you can accommodate.
We grew like almost 500,000 people in a year.
Yeah. I mean, Chicago is at 2.8 million? We're about to hit the 3 again.
Yeah.
In the next few years, 4 to 5 years, we're going to hit 3 million again. You know what I mean? Like, so Chicago is booming, and plans like these are always going to be, it's always going to be some criticism, right?
Yeah.
Because like it's at a certain point when you peak out again, you're not going to accommodate everybody because you couldn't account for what's going on. And it's hard to account for what Chicago is going to do. Mm-hmm. We have prime real estate. Like Daniel Burnham said in the plan, if Chicago was to be plotted again and placed again, it'd be exactly where it is again. You know what I mean? Like, and so, my little piece there, my little spiel there is like, as I love these plans, as long as you work and you can and get the people and maintain, equity for people, you know what I mean? Because like, you don't want no red line, green line extension situation no more. You don't want that no more.
Yeah.
We can't, it's 2026. We can't be having these issues.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
almost 2027.
Yeah, right. We are moving. Like you can't be having these issues where people ain't getting served or don't have the accessibility to a downtown. You can't have it where a generation doesn't come downtown,
right? Because
they don't feel like they can't make it there, or they don't belong there, or it ain't nothing to do there. That's kicking your ass.
A little.
Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, for real. Now Campbell, we losing the rails here at the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my piece. It's going.
We're out of.
We out of breath. But hey, here, check this out. We gonna do no 2 years, 10 years later, 10 after you, because we just did 20 years later.
That's basically what we just did.
He said enough. So Campbell,
sit down, buddy.
Y'all hear our dog. But what I will say is something that you can. I like the series stuff.
Me too. I'm really enjoying it because it gives us an opportunity to do our due diligence with these stories. Obviously, there's still so much. Like, I could spend 6 months talking about the plan of Chicago. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think the next story is going to be one where we started doing our research for the World Columbian Expo. And I am so excited about that one. We're crafting the story.
I'm so excited.
And we're doing it. We're working with the University of Chicago on this one. So it's going to be a really special one. And this one is going to be more than 4 parts. Yeah, more than 5 parts even. So it's going to be a good one.
The key here, y'all, is storytelling.
Yeah.
That's all I can hint to you.
I'm so excited for you to hear it. If you have a friend that is just as obsessed with the World Columbian Expo, send them a link to this, because they're going to want to check in next week and hear that first episode.
Yeah.
And, thank you to the University of Chicago Special Collections, because they are really like helping us a lot with this one. So we got to see some cool stuff.
Y'all gonna see it too.
You're gonna see it too. Yeah. We got, maybe you want to watch this one on YouTube, or if you're on Spotify, you can watch the video on Spotify.
Yeah. You're gonna want to. Trust me.
It's definitely one that you want to, or follow us on socials so you can see that details there. But that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us today. We love having you here. If you have any ideas, make sure you email us and let us know what you want to hear. Don't forget to sign up for our Substack so you can get the weekly newsletter with all of the fun pictures in it. And we'll see you next week. Peace. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and we hope you loved it.
And if you could, please follow us on social media at 77 Flavors Shy on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter.
If you have any ideas or deep dives that you'd love us to do, please contact us at media@77flavorsshy. That's the number 77 flavors and shy for Chicago.com.
If you like visuals, please subscribe and follow and watch us on our YouTube channel at the same thing, 77 Flavors Shy, or search 77 Flavors of Chicago.
If you would like to support us monetarily, go ahead and click that Buzzsprout link in the description of this episode.
And as always, we gonna see you next week. Peace.